Hi guys, this is Ivonbeton. Welcome to the guide to my Frostbolt Vortex Occultist. Well, basically it's also a Frostbolt, Vortex and Cold Snap Occultist because it uses all these skills. The idea behind the build is that Vortex is already fairly safe. You put it down, it's a dot skill, so you put it down and run around while dodging things and it will keep damaging. So in itself, this is already a very safe skill, but the problem is you need to get close. You can't cast it at a distance. As you can see, it just spawns underneath you, so it's not all that safe. What this build does is that it adds Frostbolt, like this. You can shoot Frostbolts, and when you then trigger Vortex, the Vortexes will pop out on the Frostbolts you've just launched. So what I usually do is I shoot 2 series or 3 and then just spam Vortex, and there will be Vortexes everywhere on the ground. I also still use Cold Snap because, as you can see, Cold Snap is it's still a dot skill. It also does dot damage, and it provides this shield ground which increases the damage of your Vortex through Bone Chill. So let me quickly go over the basics of this character. I will start out by telling you how to level, because that's a bit of a question mark to some people, especially Energy Shield is really tricky to level. You cannot level Energy Shield. I've tried in solo self-found, you cannot level Energy Shield. You will get stunned, you will get frozen, you will have a bad time. So what you do is you start hybrid. You start as a witch, of course, so you start here. But there are a few nodes which give both energy shield and life. They are mostly located to the right side of the tree. So what you want to do is go this way, then maybe even also pick up Wicked Ward, then go to melding, because these nodes give both life and energy shield. Then you want to go to Written in Blood, because these nodes also give both energy shield and life. And then you want to go to Resourcefulness, because this node also gives a lot of energy shield and life. Also, the right side of the tree has a lot of, as you can see here, in cold damage over time multiplier and increased damage over time. Now, the thing about these two stats is that they are the most important damage stats for your Vortex and your Cold Snap. Especially the cold damage over time multiplier is essential. It's way stronger than cold damage percentage, than elemental damage percentage. It's the bee's knees for this build. You can see that here I didn't take the increased damage over time because it's not as good as the cold damage over time multiplier, and because I just wanted an extra passive. You can obviously take it. I bet it does maybe more damage if you remove these two and maybe take these two. You should check in Path of Building. But this is the tree I ended up with. So you might still need a bit of life, because as you can see, these aren't too many nodes. That's like 8, it's like maybe 9 hybrid nodes. You are passing by a lot of energy shield nodes already, of course, but you're still a bit short on life probably before you finally go full energy shield. So what I would suggest is, if you're feeling a bit too squishy, pick up these life nodes, pick up these life nodes here, and go this way and pick up these life nodes. You can remove them once you finally go full energy shield. They are just there to help you survive early before you can finally survive as a full energy shield character. So when do you switch? When do you switch to a full energy shield character? I would suggest around 4 to 5k energy shield at the very least. What you also need is Wicked Ward, which is here. It's fairly essential. It's nearly impossible to play energy shield without it. Well, not impossible, but at least early on, it's a real benefit to the character. Then make sure you first pick up Frigid Wake, because this means that you cannot be chilled and cannot be frozen, next to giving a lot of damage, and Vile Bastion, because you cannot be stunned while you have energy shield. So once you have these, which should be by the end of the campaign, and between 4 to 5k energy shield, then you can switch. So the order to get them is first Void Beacon, then Frigid Wake, then Vile Bastion, and finally Forbidden Power. Now, how do you switch to energy shield? There are two ways. One way is, well, full energy shield. One way is to use Chevron's wrappings, because as you can see, the bottom line says chaos damage does not bypass energy shield. So you will still get hit by chaos damage, but it will not go straight to your life, which it normally does. The problem before you get this item is that your chaos damage you will get won't hit your energy shield, it will go straight to your life, and your life will drop very rapidly because you don't have any chaos resistance and because you don't have a lot of life. So that's what that item does, and that's why it's so strong. If you can't get this because you are either in solo self-found or because it's early in the league, this is your league starter, you're still poor, that's not a problem. You just make sure to get Chaos Inoculation and remove these two, because these two, I'm not gonna do it because it's gonna mess up everything. But Pain Attunement is only when on low life, which only works with Chevron's Wrappings, because having one life counts as full life, it does not count as low life. And this is only required if you have Chevron's Wrappings, because the you will have very low light radius, because you essentially have only, like as you can see, I only have 38 out of 2000 life. So your light radius gets lower if you have low life. So you don't, if you don't use Chevron's Wrappings, just a regular body armor with high energy shield, remove Pain Attunement, remove Arcane Vision, and just get this node and then Chaos Inoculation, and you will be fine. Okay, so that's the basics of how to start on the tree and how to switch to energy shield. Now, when it comes to leveling, I would suggest starting with Freezing Pulse and Frostbolt. Start with Freezing Pulse or Frostbolt. Don't take both, just pick one you like, because you will only get Cold Snap at level 16 and Vortex at level 28. Just the thing about Cold Snap is you can't use it all the time. As you can see, it has a cooldown. The only way to bypass it is if you get Frenzy Charges, then you can expend those Frenzy Charges to do more Cold Snaps. But probably I would just say keep using Freezing Pulse until you get Cold Snap, and then keep using it again until you get Vortex. At that point you can just use Vortex together with Cold Snap and you'll be fine. Okay, so that's that. Now let's go over the gems first, because I think that's the most important part. Let's start with the 6th link. The 6th link obviously has Vortex. This is not the most important second link. These ones are. So if you're going for a 4 link, if you're if you're early in the game, you still have a 4 link, then go with Vortex, Swift Affliction, Efficacy, and then either Elemental Focus or Control Destruction. I don't know, I think these 4 are all pretty even. Just this should be your 6th link. This should not be your 5th or 4th link. So if you have a 5 link, just take Vortex, Swift Affliction, Efficacy, Elemental Focus, and Control Destruction. Now, obviously the guide says that it's Frostbolt and Vortex, as you can see, but you will also be using Cold Snap, because first off, Val Cold Snap provides a big temporary damage boost to all your dot skills, but so does Cold Snap itself. It's a dot in itself, as you can see. This is, well, it's difficult to see in my hideout, but this is actually chilled ground. It's a dot, it does damage on top of your Vortex. They both do damage, but also if you link it to Bone Chill, then enemies chilled by supported skills have cold damage taken increased by chilled effect, and enemies in chilling area from supported skills take 29% increased cold damage over time. Especially that second line I just said is important, because this area will always chill, I think. I'm not entirely sure. And the Bone Chill makes sure that your Vortex and your Cold Snap does more damage through it. The other two are just Control Destruction and Efficacy for more damage on the Cold Snap. So those are your two main damage links. Now, for more damage, you want to be using Frost Bomb and Stormbrand. The increased critical strikes is optional. I will explain this in a bit. The thing is here, as you can see, I have trigger a socketed spell when you use a skill. Now this is not easy to get, so you don't want to use it as in the way that I am using it to start out, because that won't be possible. You won't have an item like this to start with, that's just not feasible. The way it works is I use a skill and it uses all the skills socketed. So let's say I use Cold Snap, as you can see it casts also Frostbomb. Let's say I use another Cold Snap, as you can see it will then cast Stormbrand, and of course if I use it a third time, again Frostbomb. So it will use these two skills whenever I use a skill. By Stormbrand, Frostbomb is of course self-explanatory, because as you can see the bottom line says applies 25% to cold, minus 25% to cold resistance, and it also has an added reduced life and energy shield regeneration, which is just an added bonus. So that one is self-explanatory. But why Stormbrand? Well, as you can see, we are using Elemental Overload and Elemental Equilibrium. What Elemental Overload does is you get 40% more elemental damage if you've crit in the past 8 seconds. You don't have any critical strike multiplier, but that doesn't matter because this is a damage over time build, and damage over time does no critical strike damage. So you want something to trigger that critical strike bonus, the 40% more elemental damage. You want something to crit, so you get that one. Stormbrand is ideal because it hits a lot, and it's, well, at least with increased critical strikes it crits a lot as well. So I get Elemental Overload all the time. Why a lightning skill is because the thing about Elemental Equilibrium is that if you hit enemies with one type of elemental damage, they get resistance to that element and minus resistance to all other elements. So if you hit them with lightning damage, they will get resistance to lightning damage, but they will get minus resistance to cold damage. The thing about gold dot skills like Vortex and Cold Snap is that neither of them actually, well, the initial hit of Cold Snap, I don't know about Vortex. No, yeah, the initial hit does trigger the elemental equilibrium, but after that the damage does not, the damage over time does not trigger elemental equilibrium. So you first, for example, do this, and while Stormbrand is hitting, it is lowering the cold resistance because it does lightning damage, while the dot on the ground doesn't actually count as cold damage. That's why it's important to make sure to not get any added cold damage to spells on your gear. I repeat, do not get added cold damage to spells on your gear. That will absolutely break elemental equilibrium, and you will end up doing less damage than without. So you might as well remove it if you have cold damage on your gear. Added cold damage, so flat added cold damage. So adds like 30 to 60 cold damage to spells. Like the increased cold damage is of course fine. You don't, if you have added flat cold damage to spells, your Stormbrand will start doing cold damage as well on top of the lightning damage, so it will trigger the elemental equilibrium in the wrong way. It will also increase their resistance to cold, and that is not what you want to happen. Now, if you don't have this weapon, which is understandable because the craft is really annoying to get, they might change it next leak. I will not update this video probably because they will not nerf this build. They just nerfed it and it's still really strong, but it's flying a bit under the radar right now. So if you don't have this, it's pretty simple. Just put a Stormbrand level 1 and remove the increased critical strike support, and instead put a cast when damage taken level 1. Yeah, that's pretty much what you want to do. You can either choose to cast Frostbolt manually, or also just don't link this, or also link it to the cast when damage taken. The problem is if you link it to the cast when damage taken support, it has to be level 1, so your Frostbomb has to be level 1, or maybe level 2, but it can't be very high level. So you can decide to just manually cast it instead. That's an option. The only downside here is that it will also, these skills will only trigger when you get hit, but the thing is, you need the damage the most when you're fighting a boss, and most bosses will hit you, so most of the time I found that both these things were active if I was using a cast when damage taken support gem, and there was really no issue at all. The only fight where you probably won't get hit is Shaper maybe, but that's a relatively easy fight, so that's no problem either. Okay, on to the other gems. Discipline is an important one. Regardless if you're using Chevron's wrappings or a regular armor, you want to use Discipline. You want to also use Vile Discipline, because Vile Discipline functions as a potion, sort of. If your energy shield is going low and you can't see it recharge anytime soon, you press Vile Discipline and it will just shoot up. So it's an important skill to have. Now this setup is one particular to Chevron's wrappings. As you can see, Blood Magic plus Malevolence makes so that my life is fully reserved, which means I am on low life, and through Pain Attunement I will do more damage. You cannot do this with Chaos Inoculation because you have 1 life, which counts as full life, so you cannot possibly reserve any mana, you cannot possibly go towards low life. You need Chevron's wrappings to do that. If you don't have Chevron's wrappings yet, just remove the blood magic and just take Malevolence as is. I also have a Blasphemy plus Enfeeble setup. This is reserving my mana, as you can see. Again, if you, this is a corruption that went wrong. If you don't have Chevron's wrappings and if you aren't using blood magic plus Malevolence, if you don't use the blood magic, that means that the Malevolence will be taking up your mana, so you probably won't be able to use Blasphemy plus Enfeeble, which means that instead of using Blasphemy plus Enfeeble, I would suggest, again, just like this setup before you get Chevron's wrapping, just use cast when damage taken with Enfeeble. Maybe I would suggest maybe do a level 5. It depends. Maybe you could also go for a level 1. I don't know what's the best. There should be a balance between it triggering when you're getting hit and it not triggering too often. So I would suggest maybe level 5 or 10. Then this is a Steel Skin plus cast when damage taken support setup. This is not ideal. You used to be able to take Immortal Call, which would give you a few seconds of respite so your energy shield could start recharging, but that's no longer possible. I decided to use this one instead. I'm not too happy about it. If anyone has any better ideas, just let me know. This is what I have so far. Yeah, okay, that's that. Now here is your Flame Dash and Arcane Surge support. The reason why your Arcane Surge is level 5 is because at level 5 you will get Arcane Surge after spending a total of 22 mana with supported skills. So it's linked to my Flame Dash, which costs 23 mana. So every time I Flame Dash I get Arcane Surge. You could just level it higher and get a better Arcane Surge, but you will get it far less often. It's also linked to faster casting and Frostbolt. So both my Arcane Surge and my Frostbolt have faster casting. As you can see, I have 3 Frostbolts, which this is an important part of the build. The thing about using Frostbolt with Vortex is you want to ladder the screen with Vortexes. As you can see, if I cast it and I press my Vortex, it's just Vortexes everywhere. So what I found to be the ideal solution is to get Frozen Trail, just one. It gives 40% increased projectile speed and 2 additional projectiles. This is ideal. The 40% projectile speed is ideal. I think maybe I have a bit more. Yeah, as you can see, no, I actually have 50, so 50 is actually ideal. The way I used to do it before I got the Threshold Jewel was I would link my Frostbolt to both faster casting, greater multiple projectiles and faster projectiles. Just make sure to not level your faster projectiles too high, because if you go above 50%, you will have a bit of a problem. Your Frostbolts will go too fast and you will trigger a Vortex here and you will trigger a Vortex here, which can be a problem, because if you trigger Vortex here and you trigger one here, there might be enemies right here who aren't getting hit by your Vortex. So like 40 to 50%, like 50% I would say is ideal. Don't take it any higher. The unique threshold is, in my opinion, the perfect solution, just one. But if you want more Frostballs to cover more of the screen, like if you want something like this, but just in one cast, then you could possibly just take these two out, put these two maybe here, and then put Frostbolt, faster casting, greater multiple projectiles, and a increased projectile speed setup. Or you could just put greater multiple projectiles and without a faster projectile support gem. Just make sure that whatever you use, as many balls as you want, just make sure that the projectile speed is not higher than 50%, because that will be really annoying and clunky. Also, the faster casting is a huge quality of life, because as you can see, I can just cast a lot of it. If I remove the faster casting, it's really clunky, as you can see, because you don't have any faster casting on your gear, nor on, and not a lot of it on your tree, as you can see. Okay, so that's it when it comes to the skill gems. Now let's quickly go over the gear. The gear is really simple. What you're looking for is to fill up your resist so that you have max resist and get as high energy shield as possible. The single most important damage stat is, as you can see here, the cold damage over time multiplier. That's the one you want. Second to that is increased damage over time, which you can also see on this weapon. Those are your main damage attributes. The thing is, you can't get them everywhere. You can get them on your weapon and on this item, but this item is no longer available, so basically you can only get them on your weapon. The spell damage or increased cold damage, as you can see here, increased cold damage are still useful. If you can get them, make sure get them, but they should not be your priority. Your priority should be high energy shield and resistances, and on rings an open, I think, prefix. Yeah, an open prefix, so you can cast, so you can craft faster start of energy shield recharge. So let me just quickly show you. As you can see, a helmet with the wrong enchant. This is not an enchant you need. High energy shield, resistances, stun and block recovery is not necessary. That's just, I think it's a hybrid. No, it's not a hybrid. It's a shitty attempt at slamming. As you can see here as well, high energy shield, resistances, oh, and of course attributes, because this build actually lacks strength and dexterity. As you can see, I've picked up all these nodes and I still don't have that much strength and dexterity, so you actually need quite a bit of strength and dexterity. You can get it on your rings. As you can see, I have dexterity here. On your amulet, as you can see, I have dexterity and attributes. On your shield, strength. You can also get strength on your boots, and also strength, dexterity or strength, I think both, on your gloves, because these gloves are no longer available, so actually it's ideal to get statistics like strength or dexterity on your gloves. So as you can see, let's continue where we were. Attributes, 22 all attributes, the ones you need: strength and dexterity, high energy shield, and then just an added bonus, increased cold damage. I already went over this: high energy shield, resistance, attributes, and as an added bonus, increased cold damage. Also, high energy shield, fill up resistance, very important, faster start of energy shield recharge, and just as an added bonus, increased cold damage. Again, attributes, high energy shield, a bit of resistance, just needed to what I needed to fill it up, and very important again, faster start of energy shield recharge. Same with the belt, high energy shield, and just an added bonus, increased damage. Now the thing about this is, I don't think you can get, you see the increased energy shield from body armor stat right there. I think they nerfed it. I'm not sure. I don't think you can get that anymore. As you can see, it's a delve suffix, so I crafted this belt with dense fossils. I don't think you can get that anymore, but it shouldn't matter. You still have a lot of energy shields. You can easily spec out these and just take more energy shield, or remove these two and take more energy shield, and you will be at 9 to 10k as well. Of course, your boots movement speed, a bit of resist, and a lot of energy shield. Now, the enchant, the perfect one in my opinion, is the regenerate, percentage of life and mana per second. That's ideal. You can also use the leech if you've killed recently. But it's not ideal because your vortex will not leech. Your cold damage over time does not leech. What does leech is the initial hit of your cold snap or your frostbolt. No, wait, your frostbolt, but the frostbolt does no damage, so basically this is what you'll be leeching with. I think I've done actually a map with no recharge simply through the leech of cold snap, so it is worthwhile sometimes, but this one is way better. Just simply don't do no regen maps. The gloves, these ones are no longer available, so what you want is just gloves with some statistics like dexterity or strength, fill up resistances you need, and then make sure to get high energy shield. This is well, kind of the perfect weapon if you can get something like this. This is obviously a synthesized item, well no, a fractured item, and these are no longer available. So, but you're trying to get something like this. So ideally you want the cold damage over time multiplier on a weapon, and then maybe something like spell damage or cold damage, and then multimod off of that to get the trigger a socketed spell when you use a skill, and to craft the increased damage over time. Then the increased spell damage I have is again just an added bonus. It does give you a lot of extra damage, but the cold damage over time multiplier and increased damage over time are ideal. Okay, now something important to close off this video with is flasks. This is an energy shield build, so you want an immunity to bleeding flask. I take a quartz flask because I like the phasing. You want the Witchfire Brew, which gives you increased damage over time during flask effects, and it also creates a smoke cloud on use, but it's mostly because of the dot damage you get. You want immunity to ignite. I prefer a sulfur flask for the consecrated ground. And finally, you want not what I have. You want one quicksilver that is a quicksilver of warding, and then not this one. This is wrong. Just a silver flask, which gives you onslaught, but it should give you immunity to poison. This is very important because I may have Chevron's wrappings, but as you can see, chaos damage does not bypass energy shield. What this means is I'm not actually immune to chaos damage. Poison damage on hit will still hurt very much. If you may know that this is a modifier you can get on maps. This is extremely painful for this build. Chimera is extremely painful for this build unless you get that flask. So please get that flask if you have Chevron's weapons. If you have Chaos Inoculation, as you can see, you are immune to chaos damage. You don't need that flask. You can just take a silver flask and put anything you want on it, or just go double quicksilver. Finally, the final piece of equipment, which is sort of endgame-ish. You won't get it instantly. You can't target farm this. I was just extremely lucky to get it drop in SSF, but a Watcher's Eye with one of these mods is just amazing. Especially the first one, faster start of energy shield recharge rate while affected by discipline, is amazing for this build, and if you can get it for cheap, try and get it. You probably won't find something like this in SSF. This is my SSF character, but I was just, as you can see, Chevron's wrapping this and this and this. I was just insanely lucky. this won't really happen to you. Chevron's weapons can of course be target farmed, but this cannot be target farmed. Okay, I think I've covered all of it. So just while leveling, go to this side first, get all the hybrids nodes, get the cold damage over time multiplier nodes. Then don't go here first. If you've done this part, go here to elemental overload, go here to spiritual aid, take this one, fate and steel, and then these ones are kind of the ones you want to do last. So if you've reached fate and steel, just ignore these for a while and go this route first to elemental equilibrium and shaper, because elemental equilibrium is a huge damage boost and shaper is a huge both survivability and quality of life boost, while these are sort of meh, unless you need the elemental resistances. If you need the elemental resistances, yeah, you can pick up Holy Dominion first. You can also drop Frostwalker elemental damage early. Yeah, because those aren't that important. Elemental Equilibrium, Shaper, Elemental Overload, Fate and Steel, and Spiritual Aid are way more important. Our Silos out as well. That's way more important than getting Amplify and Frostwalker. So keep that in mind, and that's about it. So I took this character from SSF to Uber Elder, killed it 1,000 times with relative ease, as you can see in my videos. GGG nerfed it, but it's still extremely strong and flying under the radar a bit, so if you want to try this out as your league starter, it should take you to endgame very easily. Yeah, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, just leave it in the comments or leave it on the forum post. Goodbye.